Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 321, and today we're doing battle in a Singleton Daily Rumble. And so the Runeterra Open is almost upon us. I'm pretty locked in on playing Aatrox, Demacia, Shurima, but I think it's worthwhile to adventure with some other decks before the event gets here, just to make sure we're not really missing out on anything. And so if you haven't really been keeping up with the Singleton format, the way I view it is that the aggro decks are all trash. There's just not enough density of cheap early game plays to make the decks really worthwhile. You can get, 6 or 7 good 1-drops, but you can't really get that 10 to 12 that you're looking for in the high quality space. In terms of the slower decks, the control decks, they tend to all be P and Z based. You see lots of Seraphine based decks with the back alley bar in it. They tend to be paired off with Targon to get access to the invokes, but they don't have the really good removal spells in them, right? You're not going to see anything like Vengeance come out of these decks because they typically don't play Shadow Isles. And so where this leads me to start looking towards is going to be OTK decks. And so we can go ahead and start to pull up what we're going to be playing with today. At its core, you can look at what we're playing with as being a Rumble Vayne deck. And so Rumble Vayne is a deck that gets pretty beat up on by aggro decks like Pirates or Annie Jin, but it's quite strong against the control decks of the format, especially when those control decks don't play cards like Vengeance or Harsh Winds, Three Sisters, whatever you have to reduce the Rumble down to 0 attack or get the outright kill, they tend to not have. They have to be like, okay, Pokey Stick, Mystic Shot, Disintegrate, or some shit, just to be able to take your Rumble down. And so this is what we're kind of looking at as the core of our deck. Rumble number 2 is going to be Riven. Riven is a card that's a little bit challenging to full-on build around, but she is another champion that has this same kind of OTK aspect built into her, so we get a little bit of redundancy here. Then, if you're not familiar with how the Rumble deck functions and constructed, you're looking to attack a bunch of times with a overwhelming Rumble. So you put a Gauntlet Puncher. Great hammers. Gauntlet Puncher is appropriate given that we're playing in the gauntlets today, but you look to give him Overwhelm with the Great Hammers and then attack a bunch of times in the same turn. And so that attack a bunch of times comes from Vayne's Tumbles, it comes from Cataclysm, comes from Ruined Reckoner generating the free attack card. And so that's not really enough to keep the flow going, but being within Demacia, we do get access to some rallies. And so we are also going to be playing Relentless Pursuit, Golden Aegis, and Champion Strength to give us those extra free attacks that we're looking for. And so the place I start to look after this, though, we have to fill out the rest of our deck with something, right? These are a lot of thoughts and concepts that you would see put together with Poppy Taric. And so we aren't playing Poppy or Taric here today, but a lot of the concepts that happen with Poppy Taric also tie into what we're trying to do. And so as we scroll down to the unit section of our deck, we do have this very large support package coming through here with the untypically played likes of things of Legion Drummer, the Tayari, and then things like Esmuth and Durandi Architect. To give us that early game punch that we need to help develop into those OTKs while also supporting the OTK with a little bit of additional strength. And so in the early game, these supports are going to be augmented with challengers, and then in the late game, those supports can go onto our big units. And so that's the kind of cycle of things I'm really looking to pull off with this deck. Is we have the OTK style coming from Rumble and Riven. We have ways to give them the multi-attacks with the various Demacia rally and free attack cards, and then we have that support package to help us navigate the early game, but then also give our champions a little bit of a boost in the late game. The last thing I want to call out with our deck building decisions here are we are playing Legionary Charge. This gives us the way to draw Rumble. And so we don't have any other 5 power units within our deck. All of our champions are up here in the small space. Just Rumble is the only 5 attacker. And then the same thing applies down here to the remainder of our units. Everything is small enough that it won't get drawn by the Legionary Charge, and so that gives us a little bit of redundancy in what we're trying to pull off with our Rumble plays. And so that's it. That's the deck. I'm ready. I hope you are too. So let's go ahead and jump on into battle. Rumble and Rally has been selected. See if we can't pull off a OTK or two. bring a little bit of fun and excitement to our opponent's day. All right, so what do we got here? A little bit of Demacia Shurima, but coming with the Varus package, less so than the Aatrox package, and so I'm interested. I like the idea of things like Varus in this format. This is why we're out here trying to play Rumble, just something that is very conducive to strength with these OTK type plays. All right, Lucian coming down, ready to cause some chaos. Not bad. I was going to look to try and tie into the Wounded White Flame, but now that we've picked up the Tyari, the Broadwing, and the Lodestone, I think we're pretty well set to really try and punish with this Formidable package, instead of trying to boost up this Wounded White Flame. I'm about to say, oh shit. You bringing it, Bust. You bringing the hammer with that Tyari. Bringing the hammer. Says, oh no, so many stats. How could I ever deal with such a thing? Gonna get that Durandi Architect down next turn too. It's gonna feel good. Not bad. This is a pretty strong set of units as well, if you want to think in terms of picking up a Mountain Sojourner. Just having the Tyari and the Durand Sculptor to give a big collection of attacks. It's pretty cool, pretty strong. So Quicksand's not bad here. Does protect his Lucian from damage, but he's not a really high-impact champion at this point, and so getting that spell just to save the Lucian feels like a bit of a win. Now we can continue to build up here. I think we want to go with the Durandi Architect. And then next turn we're going to drop into Screeching Dragon. No problems there. We'll just take this. Not really worried about this 2 damage coming in from Lucian. We could have looked to block with the Architect just to try and pick up a spell, especially since we have Catch in hand. But I ultimately don't think that was going to be necessary. So we'll get our dragon in. We'll try and save our catch for this turn. I do see some arguments for this round for, say, playing Legion Drummer, Wounded White Flame, or trying to get one of these spells going, but I just don't think that's necessary at the end of the day. All right, look at these big attacks rolling through. Formidable Bros bringing the heat. All right. There's an Unforgiven Cold. Not that bad. He gets to protect his Vayne, but still loses out on Lucian. Getting a nice board built up. And this is where the rallies can really come into nice effect, right? We've got a pretty powerful board built up. Shouldn't be too much that he can do about it. And then if we're able to get a big attack in and rally after the fact, looks pretty good. Get all these supports. Pretty good stuff. Not a bad board we've developed here. Not a bad board. So how do we want to go about this? I know we want to get this one. I want to get the Screeching Dragon boost, and then I want to do the Formidable attack again. Should probably boost up the Pantheon down here at the end. Try and take the Quick Attack Challenge into Sivir, and then the Formidable hit into Vayne. Okay. I'm on board. Not a bad looking attack. GG. Mark it a W for Bust. Who thought that was on their things to see today? Put this on your bingo board, huh? Bust is gonna be playing Durandi Architects and Legion Drummers. They're saying, "Oh shit, Bust, did we play an Expedition again? What are you doing? Quick Attack challenging with Legion Drummers." Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Never Punished coming back for round 2. See if we can't Can't get that 2-0 victory here. And not a bad start. I wish we had like a targetable in here, right? We don't have a lot of great options with this Wounded White Flame. I think we'll still hang on to it, though. Just so good with one spell. It feels like we have a lot of Reforges, you know, since we're playing all of the entire Reforge package, and we should have some targets for the White Flame, but so just a little bit short. Alright, action's not coming into battle. Let's get our friends Tyari down again. Would you rather do Tyari or the Durandi Architect? I think we can do the Architect here. It's basically going to come down to, like, what do we think his second unit is going to be, right? We're going to hook action 100% of the time, but do we want to get... Interesting. Do we want to get, Tyari involved in combat or the Architect? Okay, this is fine. Takes his action down to 1 health. Invested a whole lot in that action without a whole lot of payoff for it, so I feel pretty good about that. If he doesn't open on us, we have access to Pantheon here, but I think the real question is going to be, do we want to try and push in with rallies? And so we could say put Fleet Feather Tracker and Tyari down, open attack next turn, and then Golden Aegis for an additional play. That's what I'm leaning a little bit more towards than trying to get Pantheon or the Wounded White Flame in. We can take 4 damage. I don't care about that. Maybe would we, thinking on it more, would we rather just rally on his next turn? I think I still like this idea. I still want to be adding the Fleet Feather and adding the Tyari to the board. The question will be, do we just add Pantheon, or do we want to take this rally on the next turn, just try and ace his board? It can be a little bit of a challenging time to rally, as he's put both Waking Sands and Shadow Fiend into his hand. Makes it a little bit more challenging to get profitable attacks that aren't open attacks. What we got here? The bird. So bring in one of these. Gets a decent hook into action, and then one that also kills the Fanatic. Okay. I'm sold. You fought hard, Tyari. You fought hard. I guess a reasonable question as well is, do we ever just wait on the champion's strength, which I'm not completely opposed to. It doesn't seem terrible. I don't think that's where we want to be. Yeah, check this. Check this 0 Fated Pantheon. He says, I'm ready. I'm ready. Bring me the thunder. Alright, not bad though. Not bad. Single combat. So with this, we'll probably just be looking to 2-bank out of this turn, right? If we go into next turn, we'll have the 7 natural mana 2-banked up. We can look to Champion Strength. I think we're just going to Golden Aegis here. And protect our friend Pantheon. And then next turn, Champion Strength with whatever's left. You shouldn't be getting too much excitement here with... he's going to kill something with Giral, but outside of Giral, not that bad. Alright, that's it. Pantheon only, my friend. Now let's drop into big spells. All right, Fam Jam. Well, there's the big set of stats. We got this 8 attack overwhelming Pantheon. Hopefully he's enough to do the bruising we need for the turn. And I feel like if opponent's just going to start playing these rando ephemeral cards, that's whatever. He's not doing anything to progress his board. All right, Vagabond in. None of his attacks here, or none of his blocks here, are particularly good. Just take down the good units. Make sure they die. Right? That's probably a fairly valuable thing to check in on. Okay. We're given cold. Not bad. Now, our Fleet Feather Tracker can still be pretty useful here, right? We can Durand Architect onto the Fleet Feather Tracker to give it Formidable, so its attacks are going to be relevant again. I think that's where we want to be. So if we want to, say, do something like this, we win the one combat with the bird. Pantheon doesn't get to do anything, but I think that's reasonable. I don't think we're just missing out on a lethal here. Are we? Hang on, hang on. What if we do this? There it is. Oh no, we can block our Durandi Sculptor. That's not where it is. Uh-oh, we're gonna lose our timer. Okay. Almost whoopsied that up with the Durand Architect getting in the way there, but not bad, not bad. I started to see that way with the Pantheon and the Formidable and the damage, but we were going to be short with the once the Sculptor got, or the Architect got blocked.
Demons walk among us, masquerading as men.
He brings a fish fight. I don't really approve of that. I don't really approve. Let's just continue on this way. We're almost winning with our width, and so we don't need to get super crazy with what's happening on this board. I'm leaning towards just guiding, touching the Broadwing, and seeing where that gets us. There's no real reason to do it this turn. We should probably just do it onto the White Flame. He says it's too much. It's too much. Whew. It's tough figuring out with these games. It's like you get in that space to where, you know, we're playing Constructed, and I've played like 50 matches, and you get used to all the sequences with the decks, but it's such a different format jumping into Singleton and things being a little bit different. It takes me a while to adjust with what's going on there. But, whew, got there at the end of the day. Victory achieved. Well done. All right, now up against the rando Seraphine deck, bringing a little bit of Freylord this time, and so they may have some ways to attack our OTKs, but we'll just have to see. Looks like a completely different deck with draws like this, right? You get the double Reforge with the bird in it and a Vayne. Like, if you saw our last games with the supported Broadwings and everything, you wouldn't even think we were playing the same thing. All right, I'm about to bring this tip to you all. It's a little bit late. It's a little bit slow to the game, but the NCAA tournament has started, the men's basketball collegiate tournament, and I've managed to pull down last place in the work pool like the last 3 years in a row, which can often be a reasonable strategy. You know, if you're going to put out a first place prize and a last place prize, if everybody's shooting for first, then you might have a little bit of advantage just shooting for last. But I feel like it's not proper gamesmanship if you look to just hit it that way in like a work pool. If you're playing with your really competitive set of friends, you know, fine, do whatever you want. But I think at the workplace, it's you can't just put the low seeds up front and hope you hit along the way. It's just not in good taste, if you will. But the strategy I like to take is just picking teams in alphabetical order. I feel like that gives you enough of a LOL. I'm kind of memeing it, and I'm gonna get last place strategy without just going all in on without going all in on getting that last place. And I felt pretty decent with it. I worry about it this year though, as the top A team is Alabama, and I have Alabama winning at their rank 1 team. And so we have a lot of potential to actually fail this year as to where rando A teams didn't quite cut it. All right, but back to the game in hand here. We do have access to this Valor, very strong Valor in the sense we have quick attack in hand, a combat trick, and the combat trick will also generate the +2 attack thing. But the fuck is this? Oh, he's just hitting flow? Okay. But with the support unit and a Mountain Sojourners, it's just way too many stats for this upcoming turn. And that's what we're going to be trying to tackle here. So if we get the Sojourners into the Architect, into the Vayne, should be pretty overwhelming. This should force him into just playing like bad cards he doesn't want to play at this point. So even if it doesn't end in being an ultimately successful major attack, I think he's going to have to make a huge investment in trying to stop this. And that's where you see with that, the inspiration or whatever that card's called, starting with, is that it's he's got to dig really hard. So what do we got? A 3/6 Architect and then a 5/7 Vayne. Okay. Too bad we don't have any equipments in hand. All right, not bad. So he lets us keep our whole team, and then we'll try and get a rally next turn. We can put we can put the Blinding Assault Bird on board and tumble it. If the tumble is successful, then we'll get the free unit out of the mix. Love seeing this. And not giving this Master Yi any respect. He's tapped down pretty low here as well. It's kind of eyeballing this. I was like, I really wish we could put the +2 attack fragment onto the Valor up front. Don't have the ability to do so. We can, of course, just weapon hilt it in the middle of combat, but not quite where I'm wanting to spend my mana. Alright, so here comes the bird. Got the deny. Needs the deny. I guess Death Ray does. I guess Death Ray does it. Don't have any ways out of that. Okay. Still looking pretty strong for next turn, though. We did pick up the Esmuth. Give us an additional support in this chain. Picks up Acorn. I was going to say, I'm looking to just come in with the kill on Esmuth, but not exactly going to be able to do that. So we've got to punch in here. I think the big thing with this is we want to make sure we get a unit up to 7 attack, which we're going to do. There's no problems with that, right? Our Vayne looks like she's going to be an 8/8. The problem here is we have to kind of preemptively play some of these spells. And so we can spend 5 mana and then still Whirling Death. So that's going to give us everything we need on these weapon hilts. So I think we just want to boost our smaller units. Don't want to be playing like Weapon Hilt onto Esmuth, right? She's going to have Formidable. So let's just boost our weaker units here. put Overwhelm on Esmuth, though. So the idea with what we did, we gave Vayne quick attack. That's going to be our biggest attacker that he's going to want to block. We boosted up our other smaller units the rest of the way. So if he blocks across the board, we should have 1 6-attack unit coming through. And then we put Overwhelm on Esmuth, since he's going to have to put a bad block in front of it, either the Acorn or the Ezreal. So this is lethal. Now we'll get a chance to respond to whatever he's trying to do. As it stands, we'll look to just Whirling Death whatever's in front of Esmuth, but he's got to play a card on the unblocked thing first. Doesn't have it. GG. Market a W for bust.
Work is never done.
All right. Next battle. Oof. See if we can't achieve victory here. See if we can't draw Rumble. I don't even know if we want to draw Rumble. What a tough space for this deck. We haven't played a game. I don't know. He wouldn't have been terrible, I guess, but we haven't had a lot of. Without that full collection of Reforged stuff, it's tough to find discardable cards. This is again another space to where if we had 12 Reforges in our deck, Saga Seeker starts to look a lot better, but he's looking like kind of a dud in this. I haven't been particularly happy with the any of the Faded package here. Seemed like it made sense playing Faded and Pantheon, but yeah, with our very small collection of Faded units, it hasn't really played out. Alright, well, you fought hard, Tyari. You fought hard. You left some stats on the board. Can't ask for much more. And Esmuth. We'll see what opponent does, but it's pretty tempting to just play Esmuth and the Saga Seeker to try and ensure that the +1/+1 goes on to Vayne. It's not guaranteed to hit Vayne, but you got a pretty good chance. If like half of our deck is units, then it should just be like a 50-50% chance to draw it, and then a 50-50% chance to land somewhere else. So at the end of the day, just kind of like a 25% chance it wouldn't land on Vayne. So I think I'm on board with this. Ooh, that's a big boy Lucian. He's ready to party. Okay. I wonder if, I mean, we took that damage right away. I'm curious if we shouldn't have just thrown Saga Seeker in front of him. Been like, oh, that's this is as good as it's getting today. All right, well, we'll send this attack in. I'm looking now towards just adding Pantheon next turn and playing Cataclysm. So if we do that, we can't add Vayne. I'm just not real enthused with dropping either of these on the board right now. Our Blade Squire is surprisingly relevant, surprisingly stat heavy, given the way that this game has gone. And so I think we can be happy enough with where it's about to end. Or Esmuth, though. It's definitely ending for him. So which of these do we care more about, the Lucian or the Callista? We're definitely going to just be cataclysming Pantheon into something. I think it's probably the Lucian that's the scarier one, although he is farther away from leveling up. It's like, whichever one we kill, though, is going to help boost the other one. So a bit of a bummer in that sense. Let's try and take the Lucian down. We can look towards Callista next turn. Some of the additional upside we get going after Lucian is if we want to play Vayne and actually attack with her next turn, the Lucian would be big enough to win the combat to where the Cavalier is going to shrink and then the Callista would be too small on her own. Is he going to glimpse beyond this? We still get the attack if he does that, I think. Okay. So he pops the spell shield, still loses his Lucian. Okay. Gonna be real close to flipping that Callista. As soon as he plays a unit, she's gonna flip. Not bad. You know what is bad? The Saga Seeker. Just sitting here not doing anything. Ooh, that's nasty. I think this one's getting out of reach. You can add Vayne, but she doesn't really do anything. It's probably a free attack with the Blade Squire. I really doubt that he's going to risk his Callista to block the Blade Squire, so we can probably get the damage in. Oh. So much for that plan. Yeah, take it back. Take it back, please. And we'll get the Vayne in. But this is horrifically bad. He's going to get 2 free summons on the turn. Our units don't even win combats against what they're up against. But, oh, Legionary Charge. Shit. It's just got the full combo now. So it's like we can Legionary Charge and pick up Rumble, but it's going to be too small. Okay, GG. I wonder how that game would have gone if we drew cards that were relevant, right? I get that we're playing Saga Seeker by choice, but it was just like basically a 100% dead card that game. It was actually worse having Saga Seeker in hand than just not drawing anything. Given that we were trying to run into spots to where we were trying to land a Chime onto Vayne, like we would have just been completely better off if that card had just been disintegrated out of our hand. We had to throw it on board just to empty it out of the hand and spend the mana to do it. Oof. All right, though. Let's try this again. Same opponent. So we'll hang on to the Tyari. We got the Legionary Charge in hand, so we can use that to draw our Rumble. We'll see if we pick up anything interesting that's discardable, although that's not a real high density of cards in our deck. Rumble should be pretty decent against this opposing deck, though. Like, it's not unrealistic to think that they'll have a way to break the spell shield. You know, your hate spikes, your vile feasts or whatever. But getting the secondary hit should be kind of challenging. Should be. All right, Yuumi makes her first appearance. This is how you go big. You say, all right, I don't have any overwhelmed weapons. I'm just gonna drop Yuumi onto. Rumble. Let's see how that goes. I'm leaning towards just playing Tyari here and then putting Yuumi on Tyari. That seems like our biggest opportunity here. I'll just take 2 of the attacks. It's a tempting unit to try and take down, but I think as we're growing with Yuumi, he's going to struggle to deal with this.
We're off on a new adventure.
Foyer comes down. Sure. It's a bit of an interesting space to where, well, next turn, let's see. Oh, he's too good. He's too good. Let's just go ahead and drop Katarina. I was gonna say, if with like looking at banking our mana going into next turn and then generating Legionary Charges into Rumble, we don't want to really be playing the Blade's Edge, but it's just a 6 mana play. Would be. Ooh, I thought I was getting clicky. It's just a 6 mana play, so it's not that big of a deal. We can still pull this off.
It's just a nick.
So do we want to go for it? Do we want to go for the old Rumble and just discard a bunch of stuff? Or it seems unnecessary at this point. Our board is already pretty good.
I will reach the peak.
Pretty good. Well, there's the hammers. We can look towards this on our next turn. I'm gonna drop the Legion Drummer. I'm gonna put the Darkened Lodestone down, and then we're gonna look to Pale Cascade. We'll save this Legionary Charge for next turn. See if we can't get the finishing blow with Rumble instead of trying to just spew this turn.
Noxus will pay for what they did to us.
Show them the might of Noxus.
Blood.
Is that all we're really looking for? I mean, getting +1 attack onto Katarina would be a pretty big deal here, but we already have the Pale Cascade in hand.
Remember why we fight.
To the point.
To victory.
We want to risk the damage onto our Tyari, though. Like, I don't think the Legion Drummer is a really compelling save here either. Okay, we'll protect the Tyari. If he wants to trade with the Drummer, that's okay. And then we'll get those bonus stats onto Katarina. It shouldn't matter too much. We have the Pale Cascade to boost her, but it was... It's just like if he has some way to deal damage to her to kill her in the middle of combat, say like if he had a hate spike to send at Katarina, losing her would actually be a bit annoying, but feels pretty okay here. Bumping up the Halloads for the Midnight Raid. Gotcha, not bad. How much is this coming at us? 4? That's very takeable. But also important to note, we did just pick up Catch. So I think we're going to be looking this turn to just add Katarina to the board. We'll play the Blade's Edge onto something. She should be enough to say, like, keep his leftmost attacker honest. So if he's going to, say, attack with the Ghostly Band and the Ceaseless Sentry, having the Blade's Edge does give us the means to kill that unit off and not take a ton of damage. But at the end of the day here, I'm really just looking towards... really just looking towards not dying and then trying to Legionary Charge next turn. I mean, it's not even going to be a lethal. You don't need to get super invested in it. Alright, well, Esmith is ready to block. I guess at the end of the day, that's what our friend is going to be for here. He shouldn't have anything to get around the Blade's Edge onto the unit, but we might as well block just in case. We don't want to be taking all that damage and then have something weird turn up. Are we willing to trade Tyari for Gwen? I think so. He's gonna have a hard time doing stuff without Gwen. I think this is pretty safe. See how he punishes with the how he punishes with that one. What he's got in mind in terms of getting her back on the board. Alright, so we'll draw an ally. I'm gonna drop in the Rumble. Don't need Yumi anymore. Pantheon is not anywhere near flipping, so he can go. And then I'm leaning towards the Darkened Lodestone, but we're really close to just dropping Harazi on the board. Maybe we get rid of the dragon.
Let's turn up the heat. Come on, baby.
Like, we do still realistically have to attack next turn, right? We have to get 2 attacks in with this Rumble to get the damages we need. Oh, he's got it too. Look at you. Look at you. Who's does you draw? Scion? It's not one of his champions. Oh, it's LeBlanc. Or I guess LeBlanc is an option, we should say.
Full throttle.
Alright, full throttle in there, Rumble. He's just going to die on this open attack next turn, isn't he? He's gonna generate a foyer token, come in, and we have to block with Rumble or we'll die. God, we're just dead, aren't we?
You're looking at Ionia's cookie ship 10 times.
We don't have the time to get Katarina on board, so we're just taking 5. F. Oh, better lucky than good, my friends. Husk and LeBlanc. That seems ultra greedy. He even got the spell shield hit down there. That's not bad, but that strikes me as probably the greediest play we'll see today. Just a very easy open attack on board. Maybe it's okay. Like, you can play the allure. That's not a big deal to see what you hit. But then what abilities do you say, yeah, I'm not going to open attack into that? Like, huh. This is going to be too much. You just hit literally everything on this attack. Oh, no, never mind. We have the Blade's Edge to try and get out of this with. Okay.
He can take it. Maybe.
And then we even have a catch in hand. I think we want to pull Rumble back. He's only got access to 1 card. Maybe it's okay. He shouldn't have a way to give +2 attack to the band. And if he is going to try and boost the band, we can still catch out of this. Okay. Jeez. Can't catch out of that, though. Brutal. All right, GG. I mean, do we ever win that game without Rumble? I guess is the question you have to ask. We could have single combated off of Rumble and he would have been safe, but like we don't win the game at that point anymore. So that's tough. So let me surrender. I don't want to watch any more animations. God, I hate this aspect of the game so much. Surrender. Get me out of this game. All right. All right, we'll wait a minute before we queue into this monstrosity again. I don't think it's just a really stretch of a matchup here. So we'll give it a hot minute before we requeue. All right, let's dive on in. Ooh, Rumble, not getting it done, man. Not getting it done. All right, something different though. Up against the old Seraphine decks. Let's see if our combos can't do their thing today. So we'll keep the Runeweaver, keep the hammers. It's just it's something that should be pretty good here. Their blockers tend to all suck. They're going to be like, oh, cool, here's a Vile Feast. I'm going to try and stop you that way. And being able to punch in with the hammers can be fairly strong. Not really amped about all these 1 health units that we're about to do. All these 1 health units we're about to do battle with, but one thing at a time. Riven turns up. The whole Reforge package is here. So I'm going to lead off with Runeweaver. Like, I'm not super worried about Zoe, but I'm not to the spot to where I just want to throw away our first unit in front of her. We'll wait around on this Rune Squire to try and get the takedown. Just having our like only interactive element to our hand here get blown up by a Mystic Shot just doesn't feel that great. Losing Riven's fine though. Yep. Like, we do have the full combos of stuff, right? We have the 2 fragments, the Riven to make more fragments, the Reckoner and everything. It just strikes me as a space to where I don't really want to be super all in against this stuff. So we'll hold it back. I mean, maybe that should have been the angle we were taking, but it just it strikes me as that's the kind of space to where we're going to invest like 7 or 8 mana into Riven, and then she's just going to get blown up. And Aphelios comes in. Interesting. I always just assume that he's probably picking the 3 damage to unit one. And we don't have a great way to stop that. Like, we can open attack here, but I don't think we're ever winning the games here with open attacks. It's a really all-around awkward hand at this point. Let's see what he does. We're counting on you, Sojourners. This should draw the spell out. He has to play the removal on the Squire now, or our attacks threaten Aphelios too much. Yep.
Just my look.
Can't stop now. Brace yourselves.
But this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad. I don't know if we're going to be able to recover out of this. We need a Rumble real bad. If we have Rumble, then we can turn it around real fast, but we have to have one of those really high impact units here. This lifesteal, interesting. Can do interesting stuff with Harazi if it ever comes around to him. Being able to drop all of these abilities on him is pretty decent. Oh, is that the flip onto Zoe? That's one short. Oh no. That does get the flip, right? No. It's a very, very strange way to go about the Zoe. I have to feel like he sequenced that wrong. Just giving the whole team lifesteal most certainly would have ended the game. Okay, this one's gonna be done. We're not in any place to recover from this. So, GG. I tried to concede again. Why doesn't this stuff work? Get it together, Riot. And so, all right, we could pull this deck up and talk about it a little bit more. I wasn't really impressed with what we put forth today. I like a lot of the ideas that were coming out of this. Again, if you look at a game like that one, and you just imagine that space to where if we have a Rumble on board there, then he's really going to struggle with what we're putting forth. It's very tough for them to have the removals to deal with something like Rumble, but the draw didn't really come together. And so I think ultimately at the end of the day, the problem that we have going on with this is the half-ass problem. We talk about the famous Ron Swanson quote as to where you don't want to half-ass anything, you want to be whole-assing one thing. And I feel like we're half-assing a lot of stuff with this deck. We just don't really have the density of cards to make the Rumble thing work. We have some stuff with like Vayne and the Overwhelms, but our Pantheons were never leveling up. Our Faded units were all garbage. We didn't have enough targetable stuff to really be pulling off these abilities, and I just wasn't really happy with how any of this came together. It's like the games that we were able to be successful were the games to where we're really having that support-heavy challenger-based opening where we're kind of snowballing the board with all of our challengers. And if we weren't able to develop that, then everything kind of fell apart. And so I was trying to think of this in the sense that we had like a cycle of synergies to where we have those early game supports, and those supports like having the rallies, and then the rallies also kind of tie in with the likes of Pantheon and Rumble and their big overwhelm attacks. But it seems like we have like 1/3 of a deck that was doing one thing, 1/3 that was doing another thing, and another third doing another one. And there are some loose ties between those thirds, but not really enough to call it a real deck. And so I think my takeaway from this one is that Rumble isn't really worthwhile. The Reforge mechanic is good, but you can't have that really be a cornerstone of the deck. And the thing that actually shined with this deck was the early game support package. And so it makes me curious if we couldn't look towards something like more of a Poppy-Terric shell, and then looking to use all of those supports and still have all that good early game action, because I think that was good, right? If you look at where our deck failed, it was at the lack of interactivity and being able to deal with the opposing units, and where we were able to really hammer home our strengths or when our opponents weren't able to interact with our stuff. It's just a function of the format, given that there isn't a huge density of cards that you can play. Like if you want to play Mystic Shot, there's like 2 or 3 cards that are similar to Mystic Shot, but if you want to have 6 Mystic Shots in your deck, you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel. And I feel like just having really powerful and strong early units is a great way to kind of come out and combat that. And so I think that's a good takeaway. You know, the support package early, a lot better than I was actually giving it credit. And then building around these champions, just not quite enough. I do still really like champions like Vayne and Katarina that can really have an impact on their own, but it takes a lot of work to get a Rumble or a Pantheon going, and I don't think that that's really the way to be approaching this format. And so, good stuff. I learned a bit. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. And so, hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So, this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.